All right, good evening, all the Warrior and AR.Watch fans. We are back live. It is 8 o'clock on Monday night, and we are here live on day one of Expedition Alaska, and it has already been a fun day. I know that I have gotten some really awesome messages from people that are watching the show, that are tuning in for all the live broadcasts. So we hope to bring you some fun coverage of the race. Obviously, when we talked earlier, they had just began. They were on the first, I guess it's more like a prologue than an actual stage of the race, as they had to climb up the big mountain, Marathon Mountain, in order to get up to the top and get their passports so that they can get the rest of the checkpoints, and so that they can count. So it was mandatory for all the teams. We got some really awesome reports from people who were up there. I'm going to share some videos with you from up on top, some about halfway up, and actually we got some good team footage up there. So I'm hoping to share that with you. Again, make sure that if you have anything that you want me to talk about in this, feel free to put a comment in the post. I'm watching the comments on Warrior page on my phone. So if you, I better turn it down so I don't hear myself. So if you go on Warrior's page and leave a comment, ask me a question, whatever you want to do. It's difficult when it's just me to get a full hour of content, but we're going to do our best. We're going to talk individually about what the teams are doing and how they're doing. So without further ado, let me figure out how to share a couple things with you. We are going to go with standby. All right, now that I have that screen up, I should be able to click on here. All right, so now we have the race tracker up, and the race tracker is firing on all cylinders. Thanks to Mark at Adventure Enablers. We've got some really awesome footage or coverage of what people are doing. So just to give everybody kind of a rundown. So teams started down here in Seward. Jeff actually posted a really cool video of teams kind of prepping, getting ready, those last minute things, taking pictures and getting all that stuff ready before they ran up to that high point up way up the mountain there. We looked at the Google Earth video earlier, and it was pretty intense, and we thought that it might be, but I'll tell you, when you see some of the videos that I'm going to show you here in just a second, you are going to see exactly how intense it was. And so I want to share that with you now. So I'm going to click off of this. We're going to go back to another stream here. And I'm going to pull up here. So we have a pretty cool sharing option with all of our people that are on the ground here. You guys should have seen the really awesome race pictures that Randy took of the teams ahead of time, but I'm going to show you now some of the views from up at the top. And I'm going to start with Randy's video here. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it.
Welcome to halfway up Mount Marathon.
I don't know if you're going to be able
Damn
to
near
hear
as far as I want to go. And
halfway up.
yeah, the top's up there. It's so steep when you start thinking about it, you start moving downhill. Warrior just went by on their way down. And the Frigilly flowers. And forgive me, but I will always say Frigilly. I can't help it. Just passed me on the way up. I saw half a dozen teams because, let's put it this way, the trails on the ground don't match the trails online. I should have had a paper map. And I got came up from another direction and got right down in there someplace, and then had to turn and go all right back to the bottom and come back up. Anyway, that's Seward, and this has been your morning update.
All right, so as you can see, that was pretty freaking awesome. And kind of what we expected. It's what we talked about in the afternoon post about how they were going to be going up really steep incline. I don't know if you could hear at one point in there. I mean, Randy's standing still taking a video, and you could hear him start to slide just from the slightest movement. So teams had to brave that. They had to push up there with their packs on, with uneven footing and shale and all of that that goes into it. And what a beautiful view, though. I mean, that cloud cover kind of came in as the racers were climbing to the top. And Jeff described that there was that cloud kind of barrier. And then when people got up to the top, they could see everything from the other side. So they got up to the top, and I've got another video here that I will show you. And we're going to go back to my little Google Drive here. And this is from Nick, who was up at the top. I think this is the first one that he took. A little explanation.
So this is Nick Hurff here on ground with Expedition Alaska. And we are on the side of the city of Seward and on the mountain marathon trail. And coming through the fog is the first place team Bones, kind of coming in and out of the sea fog. And in between splits, you can get glimpses of the beautiful mountains around. It was clear earlier, and now it's kind of fogging up. May make navigation a little more difficult. And the terrain gets, depending on route choice, can vary significantly with decent scrambling going up versus a trail labeled as down trail that can be smooth going down.
And if you don't trust Nick in what he's saying, here's Bones coming up the hill.
All right, we got Team Bones coming through the mist up the mountain. How you guys feeling?
Good.
Yeah. Misty. Did you get any of the views before the fog rolled in?
We did.
Nice.
We got some nice views. There's a nice breeze now.
You get some rock climbing in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, growing.
Woo. Yeah.
Mary finally got in. Last racer of the last TA.
I'm not the last one to have all my gear though.
Oh yeah, that's true. Always staying positive.
So that kind of brings, it all into view, right? Like we talked about how crazy that view was going to be, right? Like that it was going to be nuts, and it was probably going to be crazy just by the Google Earth images. And that video does it a little bit more justice, as you can see how steep it was, that as their feet are on stuff, their hands are literally helping them climb up. So they had a little bit of scrambling and a little bit of shale slip and slide action. And then guess what? Once they got up to the top, they had to go right back down that to the bottom. So kudos to all of the teams for getting up and down that as your prologue to the beginning of the race, which is pretty damn impressive, if I do say so. Teams are moving really good. All of them are off of that first prologue and on to the bike section. And actually, right before we started live here today, Team Bones got into the first TA. So I'm actually going to share my screen so that I can show you the tracker. So we talked about that teams started in this area, and as they moved out, they moved along the roadway here, up north through Bear Creek and Woodrow. And now you can see teams, coast to coasters. We're moving pretty good. Apparently, like right now, it's typical Alaska weather with a little bit of drizzly rain and wet roads. So teams are getting to experience the true Alaskan craziness from clear to wet and probably going to get pretty nasty here in a little bit. If we move up here to the front, now I'm going to click on Team Bones so that you can see. I want to talk a little bit about the time differences for these teams right now because Team Bones came into TA1 about 6:39, but really, like not all teams have hit this CP3, so it's hard to tell exactly how far apart. So one of the things that I do to determine how far we are, well, hold on, we are going to stop this share and I am going to let Nick Hurff in because he is on the ground. And welcome, Nick. Hey, buddy.
Hey,
Well,
Doug. Yes,
woohoo!
we
You guys,
got Team Bones here.
you guys look a little.
Yeah, a little bit.
Let's go talk to Bones.
Let me see the battery. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Are people on?
Uh, maybe.
Yeah, so yeah, let's turn this
Yeah,
on.
Bones were hammering the opening bikes, and they're here already.
Yeah,
Right at our prediction time, so everybody's on track.
there he is here. They're pretty much ready to go. They're loading their bikes up, got their dry suits on.
They
Pretty
got
much.
the crafts all together.
Yep.
We had a little false alarm. They blew up the pack wrap and it started leaking, and they thought it had a hole or something, but it was just a zipper. So got it fixed, and now they're heading out now.
Crisis averted.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, tell them to say wave hi to everybody at home if they're.
Yeah, bins will go in there too.
Okay, see it.
Yep. They're in the zone.
Oh, I get it, man. Tell Mary I said hi.
Doug, Doug says hi.
Doug.
Hey, good job. Keep it up. Well, so as racers can see, like this is a typical transition area for people that are at home and you're wondering what happens when they get to these TAs. They have to get in, they have to get all of their stuff off of their bike. They have to get their bike stuff put together. They're loading them up in trucks. Then in those bins, each team member gets a bin, and in that bin it has pretty much everything they need for this race, but they have to carry it all with them. Any food, extra clothes, gear, things like that they have to keep. And then they have to blow up their rafts and get on their dry suits because as we talked about, the water is cold. Nick, have you felt the water?
It's cold.
A little bit cold, huh?
Very cold. Yeah, it's beautiful here though. The clouds kind of rolled in from the ocean, so it's been raining, but you can kind of see peeking through. I don't know if you can see some of the snow up top.
Yeah.
That the mountains here are, I mean, that's probably 3,500 feet vert, maybe 4,000. Some of these, so they're big mountains. Yeah, beautiful lakes. Some are glacial fed. They're just kind of rain melt or snow melt. But yeah, it's phenomenal.
Well, we were talking, I was covering like where the teams were in the race and like in relative to each other. So I don't know if you want to like walk away from them so they can't hear. We don't want to give anything away.
I'll go from I'll go from a distance. They can't hear you from here.
Yeah, so it looks like Warrior is the second team, and judging by their CP2 times, they were about 35 minutes apart. Going into CP2. We don't have their time at CP3 yet, so it's hard to tell like what that time difference is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the gap to ThisAbility was about 15 minutes off of that. So
That makes sense. Yeah, and that kind of lines up with what we saw at the top of Mount Marathon. So Hunter and I went up Mount Marathon and handed out the passport. So we kind of ran up, left about 30 minutes before the teams. And then yeah, that's pretty much what we saw up there, was that same order of movement and same pattern.
I love that you nonchalantly ran up a mountain just to hand out punch cards.
Okay, power walk. We power hiked up and we ran down. We'll send you some videos like us running down. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of scree, and scree is sketchy or fun. I find it fun. It was good scree where you could literally run down. It was like running on pillows. So you're like sliding and running down. It felt like you were skiing. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
But for those who aren't
I
to
shared
it,
the videos earlier that you sent. I did that. I showed Randy had an awesome video from up there with a great view down at Seward. And then I showed the videos that you sent. And I'll probably in my 10 p.m. reel, I'll put together a reel with all of those together.
nice.
Just to kind of talk about it. So that way, if people missed it in the video, they don't have to watch the whole live just to to catch the videos. Um, what are you hearing from teams? I mean, you got to see all of them up at the top.
Yeah, we saw them all at the top. Most of them were looking good. There was Coast to Coast is in the rear. They are I think one or two of the racers are experienced, two of the racers are like brand new. One is was very uncomfortable
That's
on the mountain.
understandable in that mountain.
Yeah, so just very he wasn't like overly tired. He was just very cautious with footing and just moving very slow.
I
And
feel
so
that though.
yeah, but they also in the transitions are very, very slow too, which you see with newer teams. So nothing too alarming with any team. But I would say for them, that's kind of just they're newer and they're taking their time in transitions and different things like that.
Yeah.
The rest of the seem to be pretty high in spirits. I mean, everybody seemed to like the hike up, had fun, smiles. It's early in the race, so they're still not hungry or sleep deprived. But yeah, things are good. I mean, everybody's having a lot of fun, a lot of smiles, a lot of high fives, a lot of laughs.
I know you and I can appreciate, and we talked a little bit in the early morning or the afternoon show. I'll call it the early show
Mhm.
about Ranger Up. And I know that's got to hold a special place in your heart, right?
Yeah, yeah. I chatted with those guys, so they're all yeah, they all served in the army, went through Ranger school, all that kind of stuff, which is stuff that I did. They some of them were on special forces teams, so I deployed attached to some of their teams and guys they know, and small community kind of in that community. So yeah, but they're here. They've done other adventure races, and yeah, I think they were fourth. They were in fourth place when they got to the top, but they look strong. I mean, they're moving strong and looking good. So I think they're going to be somebody that's going to be volleying. If the order stays the same with them in fourth and ThisAbility in third, I think that they're going to be giving ThisAbility a run for their money.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Ability is right on the heels of AR Warrior. So I mean, I would say it's anybody's game right now, especially Bones is kind of Bones and Warrior. I'd say are generally the two fast teams coming into this, but easily. I mean, one nav error can fix it, change that. One twisted ankle the wrong way, like it's very easy to have things go different. And so I think we're going to see. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out on the course.
Well, yeah. So I got to talk to Melanie Weeks on Messenger earlier, who's Justin's wife from
Mm.
Ranger Up, and she talked a little bit about the fundraising that they were doing for some of the Warrior charities and like not Warrior racing, but like military Warrior people. So I'm going to make sure that I post some of those links in our comments here on this live page. So if you're at home watching, they are raising money for it's basically a Guardian Revival charity, and they're trying to raise money by going out there and crushing this today. And it's funny because they were pretty much neck and neck there for a little bit with ThisAbility. And this bike has changed that a little bit. ThisAbility is starting to pull away, and I think um, that could be a big factor here. I mean, because like you said, they are right on the heels of I'm going to share my screen with everyone so they can see it while you're on here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it while we're talking. But what we're talking about is this is the first place team up here at the top, and this is Bones. This is the ones that you're seeing. They're getting ready to go out on this first pack raft. You got Warrior, who are one checkpoint away from getting to that section. How far is that checkpoint away, Nick?
Hold on, it froze. Okay, say that again, Doug.
How far is that checkpoint away from the TA, the last checkpoint?
Oh, it's not that far. It's very close. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure off the top of my head without looking at the scale. But
Yeah,
it's
I didn't know if you guys had gone to it or not. But I mean,
No,
following
yet.
right behind them is ThisAbility, and then it looks like Ranger Up might be at that CP3 there for a few minutes, which, listen, I am all about taking a break, making sure that you have the right gear on in this wet and crazy weather. It looks like actually, as we're speaking, their dot has moved, and that's the intervals on the dots are every 10 minutes. So if you're at home and you're watching, just know that that is probably why maybe you don't see it move for a while. So I would imagine that any minute you're going to see Warrior coming into the TA. But Nick, can you talk a little bit about this next section of pack rafting? And maybe Hunter can chime in on that too if he's not doing
Yeah,
something.
let me grab real quick. Hunter, can you talk about this upcoming section? Cool. Yeah, he's coming over.
No problem.
So in the meantime, we got Bone just
Shove it.
getting packed.
Shoving off. I love it. And just so everybody at home understands, this area in Alaska does not have great coverage.
I know.
So if it freezes, it's because we're on Starlinks and Hunter.
Yo.
So I wanted to talk about this next section because I think there's going to be some separation in teams in this next section.
Yeah, I think this section has the most route choices out of anything in the course because you're basically connecting 5 glacier lakes up on the mountains. Some of them higher elevation, some lower, and different route choices. There's rivers flowing down, there's rivers flowing up. So it's not like, oh, I can just paddle to all the checkpoints. You have to make a decision if you're going to paddle around and bushwhack a certain section, or you're going to pop out on a dirt road and run the dirt road up, or find some single track and head up. So there's a lot of different choices, and it would be really cool to watch the track over the next day or so to see what these lead teams do and then what some of the back of the pack, middle pack teams decide to do of connecting. If they follow the same path as the lead teams or not. So there's Bones taking off right now.
That's awesome. And on those rivers that are going in different directions, they might, I mean, obviously you're not going to tell that on the map. So they might make a route choice thinking that they're going to be able to do that and then get there and not be able to do that. Would that be right?
Exactly. So it's like the bushwhacking here is so thick. Oh, look at team leaving and team coming in at the same time.
Warrior. All right. I knew Warrior was coming any minute.
And I don't think they even noticed. I don't think Warrior can see them leaving yet.
Ships passing in the night.
There's Jesse coming over. So Jesse's going to see them. Huh, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know.
Hey, nice work.
You guys are live.
Done with them, you're gonna pull them over to the big truck.
Yeah.
Whenever you're done with them. Oh, here's our paddle bag. Yeah, paddle bags are here. When you're done with paddle bags and bends, they'll be on the truck to the right. Not on it, just next to it.
They're looking focused.
Yeah. No, and that's what you need to be at this stage of the race, knowing that you're right on the heels of the lead team.
Yep. It's a hold. Or let's see Jesse. We had Doug on here live. What's up, Doug?
What's up, buddy? You guys are looking good. We're live.
You look nice and warm.
I was
jealous, right?
I wasn't gonna mention that.
Yeah, I think one of us is smarter than the other one.
Mountain Dew or Coke?
Well, yeah, so
Coke, please.
Good to
Go
see you
last.
guys.
All right, I'll take one.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Say hi to everybody. We're live.
Yeah. Oh, that looks like an organized bin.
Woo,
Good thing, Jesse
Good
was on that.
Hunter.
it's almost like we did an AR 101 on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Ziplocs in order. It's my next bag.
That just shows everybody at home that you weren't just talking about it, you actually do it. And
Well, I
this
learned
is a
bin
5-day
organization
race.
from these two over here and how they kept it really organized.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's organized now. We'll see how it looks at the end
Yeah,
of the
that's
race.
promise. That way. You go. You try here.
The Coke delivery service over here, the legendary Nick.
I like it.
Oh no, that's trademark.
They call it pop in their part of the
Pop.
world.
Pop.
So
What do they call it in Alaska? Because I mean, it's probably not Coke, right?
I don't know.
Maybe it's soda.
no cheese.
He's got a little dry mat to change his pretty shoes. Don't get his feet dirty.
How wet are you right now, Jesse? Oh, we might have froze a little bit. If you did,
I won't get down and get that angle.
all right, we'll let you guys
Use the,
focus.
Thank
Keep pushing hard, guys. Hunter, can we talk a little bit more about obviously not right there with them, but maybe
Plug in under this. Yeah.
so some of the teams in this next section may or may not go get all of those paddle points, correct?
Yeah. But the thing is, most of the checkpoints along the way, there's only 2 that are out of the way. So for the backpack teams to skip here early on is going to be tough. So we'll see that basically snake, like we call it, is going to be pretty spread out these first few sections because there's a lot of point-to-point sections. So you'll see some of these backpack teams have to get most of the checkpoints to go. But later on the course, there's a lot of opportunities to skip. As in that big bike ride, they can skip like 40-something miles. And then the whole pack raft, the last pack raft section, they can skip all of that if they want. In the final trek, they can skip the whole thing. So there's a lot of skipping in the second half of the race. So we just got to make sure these teams stay positive and keep going, even if eventually for them it's like, man, we are 24 hours behind the first place team. It's like, okay, yeah, we're still going to keep you guys moving and not dropped out or not assisted or anything. So
how many total checkpoints are there? Because I didn't count them. I don't know if you know. Oh, we froze a little bit.
look at that mannequin pose.
Oh,
Oh, you're back.
Perfect.
So unlike like C2C where there's 72 checkpoints and you really want to drop checkpoints when, you know, maybe early, maybe late, maybe middle, whatever, knowing that you can drop a lot in the second half of this race, that probably should keep a lot of the teams trying to go after as many as they can until they can't, right?
Strategy wise, I would say skipping early is the key, even if it's only skipping 1 or 2 of those checkpoints that are really far. Because if you look, there's a lot of checkpoints on that last trek. There's a lot of checkpoints on the last pack raft. So best case scenario is not skipping those last 2 sections.
Right.
But again, there isn't many opportunities to skip early. Besides, like, okay, if you look on the pack raft section, checkpoint number 7, the pack raft they're going on right now.
Yeah.
Checkpoint number 7, you could skip pretty easily, and that will save you 2-3 hours maybe.
yeah, and that's a big thing that you'll analyze as a racer is, especially the advanced navigators, you're always doing a time distance estimate for each point, you know? So if you have to, it's like, okay, well, we're going to drop this checkpoint because it'll take us 2.5 hours, 3 hours to get 1 point. Whereas all these later in 3 hours, we can get 4 checkpoints at this O course or whatever. So a lot of times doing a time distance estimate helps because as you go and you realize, okay, we need to skip, you know which ones you're going to skip ahead, as opposed to figuring it out on the course.
Yeah, because Hunter, that CP7 is up in Grant Lake, and that's a hike to get up there, right? Because it's a different elevation than everything else.
It's very deceiving because when I went to go set that checkpoint, and like my dad and Bruce designed that point, and I just had to go set it. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a little hike up there, and it's gonna be a nice little paddle across. But it's actually like a pretty big climb and a pretty big downhill just to get into that lake. And it took us, I want to say 3+ hours just to set that one checkpoint.
Wow.
So it's like when you're racing and you're tired and going pack raft, you have to basically deflate your pack raft at the bottom lakes, carry it all the way up, inflate it, paddle to that checkpoint because it's on an island, deflate it again, hike down, and inflate at the bottom lake. So if you skip that, you're skipping a lot of transitions. So that's the biggest checkpoint we're recommending teams to skip if they're not already noticing that.
Yeah.
How far is the could they
swim it?
What's it look like on the ground there to swim it from that little bit?
Those lakes are so cold that swimming is just like,
even in a dry suit.
I think maybe on a dry suit if you're careful. If you zoom in on the checkpoint 7 again, Doug.
Yep.
There's actually a little land bridge on the north side that you can walk across. It looks like it's just water. There's
that's
water
what I meant.
between,
Swim there,
but it's actually a little land bridge of down trees that like you can walk across.
But they're slippery right now.
No, it's safe enough to walk. Come carefully. There's grass and some dirt in it too.
But people aren't going to know that from the other side of the lake. So they're already going to have either inflated their pack raft and paddled over there, or decided I'm not going over there.
Yeah, and they have to because they're going to be coming up the south side of the lake.
Yeah,
so it's like they got a pack raft across the lake anyway. So might as well just paddle straight to the checkpoint.
Yeah.
So it's like
this looks super steep right here.
Steep.
And and one thing is the vegetation is super thick in Alaska in general. I mean, very thick. So with dry suits on, they're like $700, and you poke them and get a little hole in it, and all of a sudden, one, they're not working, and two, I mean,
your bank account's crying.
Yeah, you're sad. And so you're not going to see too many teams deviating and bushwhacking on these trek legs. They'd have to most likely take their dry suit off, pack it, and put it in, and it's kind of a pain. So you'll probably see teams opting to paddle more than trek, I would think, and minimize the treks and stay on trail as best they can.
That makes complete sense. I was trying to see if there was any comments in the page for anything. Yeah, I would imagine that ThisAbility is probably going to be coming in here hot any minute. They were a little bit behind. So if I'm pulling up the timing, they were 15 minutes behind Warrior when Warrior was at CP2. Warrior hit CP2 at 5:01 your time.
Yep.
And this
4:01.
Is that what the track? Yeah, and so they were 17 minutes apart at CP2. So
nice.
It seems like a pretty straight shot. So maybe before we end here, we'll get to see ThisAbility come in to the checkpoint too. And what is the estimated time for them to get through the? I mean, most of the teams are not going to get to TA3 until probably early in the morning, right?
Yeah. I don't know the exact time estimate. That my dad knows that information, but I think we talked about 10 hours or so to get all the checkpoints from here. You're moving really good and you have good route choices. So we should be expecting Bones early morning at TA2.
Okay.
Or Bones, Warrior, ThisAbilities, whoever comes.
It froze a little bit again, but that's all right. We talked a lot about the front of the pack. I want to talk about this middle of the pack because it's getting crowded and congested in the middle. Oh, you guys are back.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about the front of the pack, and I want to kind of focus in here on this middle of the pack because
Talk. Go lay down.
we have a lot of
Hunter's gonna go lay down. He was up super late last night, and him and I gotta go set part of the course.
See you, Doug.
So,
See everybody.
We'll see you
Yep, see
tomorrow.
you.
Yep.
So Nick, what's cool about this is, I mean, we've got all these teams that are right there with each other. We've got sorry, I'm trying to zoom out here. So we've got Go Live Your Adventure. We've got Florida Extreme Plus. We've got the Breaking Butterflies. Just behind them is Mad Cow. And the Fragile Flowers are just behind them. And then I really feel like Coast to Coasters have kind of made a little bit of a comeback where they're really not that far behind Fragile Flowers now and moving pretty good on the bike.
Yeah. Can you? Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
around Bear Lake, but they made a pretty good catch. I mean, just seeing.
Yeah. So they were on. There was a lot of road at first, and now they're on the muddy trails that slowed everybody down. So you'll see them catch up a little bit there, but we'll see what it looks like with the elevation gain in the mud.
Yeah. And I mean, the rest of the teams are moving pretty good. 50-60 Adventure are kind of ahead of the pack a little bit. And then you're up here with the Ranger team, the Ranger up, and then you've got ThisAbility who I would imagine are probably a little further than what this dot shows. And another cool feature for everybody at home is if you go up here to this little, looks like a stopwatch up on the top, if you click on it, and I want to click off of ThisAbility, but you can click on your team. So let's say you want to follow Ranger up, right? So you click on their team, and then down here at the bottom, there's kind of an elapsed time thing. But if you hit play, this gives a full kind of play-by-play of all the teams and where they are in relation to each other throughout the race. So as you can see, like this was the start, as they start to fan out and get up the mountain, kind of how they went up the mountain. You can see like the distance in between their dots is it slowed down because they're going up the mountain. And that elapsed time was a little faster. Then boom, you see Bones coming down and how fast that comes down. And then as you zoom out, now you can see, I mean, they were up here almost at the first checkpoint before teams were even out of the Seward area. And then, like you said, then they slow down a little bit when they get in this muddy area. And those four teams were right on top of each other. I mean, those three were right there. And then, then things start to spread out and you can see how teams are doing. Like if you look here, this team hadn't even gotten out of Seward yet when Fragile Flowers hits that checkpoint. And now they're, they've moved up pretty quickly. So it's kind of a cool way to see, what's going on in the race and where teams are. Nick, I'm really, so I know you're bummed that you're not racing since
Not too.
things have. I'm selfishly very thankful that you are there because not only are we great friends, but now I have an on-scene reporter to be able to have these kind of conversations and really just check on teams. So I will be definitely using your knowledge and inside information, just talking to people and finding out how they're doing. If people are having rough patches, let's definitely talk about that because I think it's important for people at home to know, hey, look, your team's pushing on, like there's no issue, or they had this issue and they've worked through that because, I mean, adventure racing is all about the ebbs and flows, right? I mean, you and I did our first C2C together, and we had a lot of those ebbs and flows of people doing great, people not being able to walk, me included, and having to carry your teammates, because that happens out here. And in a 5-day race, it's just, it's magnified even more. Um, what are what are some of the keys? Because I don't do a lot of cold racing.
Yeah.
What are the temperatures like there? And do you think that teams are going to struggle as the night hits?
It depends if they're dry or not. So having quality rain gear is huge, and then you can just layer under it. Um, but with it raining consistently, I think the forecast shows around 4 a.m. it's going to stop raining potentially, and that's in Seward. So in the mountains, who knows? Kind of as we're going into the middle of Kenai Peninsula. But tomorrow looks drier, so they can push through tonight. They'll be fine. If they can stay dry, they'll be okay. Hitting this pack raft section's nice because they'll be in dry suits, so they'll be pretty dry. Like if it's going to be cold and rainy, I mean, a paddle leg with dry suits isn't a bad place to be. So I would say if they get soaking wet, it's cool enough and it'll dip cold enough that it could be a hypothermic issue. However, the teams seem like they're prepared for the rain and the weather. You see people with seal skin gloves and pretty good rain gear on. I mean, the volunteers are all dressed up well for the rain, so I think everybody came into this expecting it to be cold and wet because that's kind of Alaska, even in the summer, is cool and it gets pretty wet in the summer. So I think people are overall prepared. But if you have an issue where you don't have the right kind of gear and the temperatures are dropping and you're wet, I mean, that could be an issue. But the teams have all the mandatory equipment. The U.S. Forest Service is actually here. They're checking in, but with the permitting, that was a big thing with the permitting, which Jeff could talk more about, was looking at risk mitigation and the mandatory gear. So having 4-person teams in such a rugged, austere environment is critical. And then, having more people is helpful. And then making sure that they have all the gear they need. So if there's an issue, I mean, there could be an issue and we may not get somebody there until 4 hours later, 5 hours later, 6 hours later. And depending how bad it is, if helicopters can't fly, you might be there overnight. So making sure
what are they wearing under their dry suits? Because like that's a question that I would have. Like, I mean, I have enough fat to keep me warm for a little while, but like what are they wearing? How are they keeping from like sweating to the point where that then becomes an issue, but also staying warm enough um underneath their dry suits?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a guess for different people and different body types, but probably what you're seeing them wear is some kind of silk layer. And then for me, like I would probably put a little bit more clothing on my legs since I'm not going to be using them, but the upper body will heat up. And then one thing with the dry suits is, if you get a little too hot, you can just hop in the cold water, or just like dip your arms in, things like that. So it's easier I find if the water's cold, like here or up in Alberta or British Columbia, where the water's cold, you almost can err on the side of being a little too warm if you're unsure, and then cooling off as a strategy. But yeah, you're not going to see too many people completely layer and load up their top a bit. Now, the thing is, the dry suits keep you dry, they don't keep you warm. And so really the issue is if you fall in is staying warm as well. So, you're in 2 boats, you have throw ropes, all that. So if there's an issue, you'll get out of the water somewhat quick. But just keep that in mind too, is that dry suits aren't warm, they're just dry. So yeah, layering underneath is critical. I'd probably wear a silk top, silk bottom, and maybe like another thicker pair of pants on the bottom, and then hop in my dry suit.
I know you like to wear some silk, so we didn't spend 3 nights just camping for nothing.
Oh man.
Uh, so like I said, I think the next team that's probably going to come in is going to be ThisAbility. Let me look at what the tracker, if it's updated.
Oh, I'm
Oh.
back.
Oh, yep. That's what we get with Alaska, right? Have you seen any wildlife yet?
No, not really. Nothing significant. Like little birds and stuff, but we haven't seen any bears yet.
Do you
Up
expect
here,
teams on this paddle maybe to see some near the water at water's edge or? Oh, we got another freezing section. No pun intended.
whoop,
I said we had another freezing section. No pun intended.
yeah,
Um,
yep.
uh,
No bear sighting.
nothing yet. That's good. I mean, hopefully that doesn't hit anything. So it still might be another 10 or 20 minutes before ThisAbility gets in. Their last track is just south of CP4. So they're not quite to CP4 yet. I want to kind of look at I'm going to do a screen share here just to look at the time difference between Bones and Warrior, because everybody got to see that Bones was taking off all on the water right when Warrior was coming in. But let's see kind of what that looks like as far as so Bones hit CP3 at 5:16 and then hit the TA at 6:39. So it took them wow, it took them an hour and 22 minutes between. Oh, because it didn't register CP4 for them.
Mm. Yeah, so sometimes
Yeah,
the
if the
way that
tracker.
yeah, so essentially as it pings the frequency, it'll need to ping within a certain range of it, and so it might miss it. But then Mark Harris is fantastic about going in and reviewing everything and adjusting it.
Yeah,
But just the way the frequency of the pinging happens in relation to the radius around the checkpoint, you can blow through the checkpoint in less time than it takes for it to go off. And so, with these as 10-minute intervals, especially on a bike where you're going faster, one person's punching, other people can keep moving, and then the guy punches super quick, hops in, and is at the back of the pack now with the team. And you can be in and out of an area pretty quickly, so quicker than the 10 minutes it would take to ping in that area. So for the fast teams, that'll happen. And then that'll just get adjusted when they look at the screen. And then the official is the passport itself.
has Warrior how's Warrior looking as far as like being ready to go out on the water right now?
Pretty solid. Their transition's looking good, similar to Bones. Um, yeah, the bike transitions take a bit. It depends. Hopping on the bike for transitions doesn't take too long. Hopping off doesn't take too long either. But when you throw in the pack raft, they're going from bike onto pack raft, and so they got to like swap out a certain kind of shoes, grab the other ones. Potentially, they got to throw their dry suits on, which if you ever put a dry suit on, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Then they also have to blow up all their rafts, get all their paddles connected together. They're downing some food while they're doing that, checking their mandatory gear, or any additional gear they may need specifically for this section that they didn't have to have on others. And so there's a lot that goes on in these transitions, but they're pretty smooth. So the key is the team working together, communicating. We'll head over much. So you're hearing right now. So right now, second. Give me 1 second.
Guys, this is insight that you don't get in a lot of races. Because
This around. So what you have now is you have them getting some information from one of the volunteers, just of some guidance put out. So hey, this area may have rough water, so we want you to stay on the side, things like that. And then the team right now is cross communicating about what they were doing. So they were checking on the status, like, hey, how long till the boat's ready? This, that. Make sure you have this. And they're kind of flowing pretty smooth. So you'll see the boats are really topped off and pretty good. You see Olaf blowing the final couple pumps into the pack rafts. So most of the teams now, top teams, will be using these very lightweight electronic little inflators. And
Yeah.
so they'll blow it up really quickly, but then you need to top it off either blowing with your mouth or with a hand pump. And then what you'll see is they'll put it in the water. The water's cold, so they'll splash it, water all over to cool it off, and then they'll finish blowing it up in the water before they take off. Additionally, what you often see are things called T-zips on these. So T-zip example would be this here. So before they blow it up, you'll often see teams put packs and things like that inside as extra storage. Other teams, depending on what it looks like, may keep bags out and with them so they have easier access. So it kind of depends what you want to do. If you're planning to carry in portage with it blown up, you may not want to put your pack in. And so there's a lot of strategy that'll go into it. But yeah, they're pretty good there, getting last of their stuff ready. And looks like they're all moving fast. You'll notice not a lot of talking at times.
Everybody's got a mission, right?
Yep. And they all know what they need to do individually to be ready to go. They all understand what the team needs to do. They'll cross communicate to help each other out, down calories. And yeah.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, it's so cool to see because this is the kind of stuff that a lot of teams don't get to see, and you're getting to see the front of the pack doing this, right? So if you're sitting at home and you're watching this and you're like, man, how can I make my transition better? This is what we want to emulate, right? I mean, have a plan. Everybody has a mission. You know what to do. There's not a lot of downtime. I know all of us get into transitions and we want to take some extra time because we're tired. These teams don't let themselves do that when they're at the front of the pack. They rest either on the bike or in the boat or those kind of things where they're still moving forward, and that's what separates them from the rest of us because they are able to recover more where the rest of us get off and we're like, man, we're off that bike, thank God. And it's time to move on. And it's hard to get back up, especially when you're cold and you're wet, and you're trying to just get yourself right. And that's where having really strong teammates and good communication really helps too.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, they're starting to get to the point where they're just about done with their bins, moving their packs around. You'll also notice you'll eat a lot of food prior to paddles because it's harder to eat while you're paddling. You'll see a lot of racers will try to put camelbacks or things like that on their PFDs. So you'll see some are built in. Jesse has one on his back right now. And so it allows you to put a bunch of, tailwind or some kind of liquid nutrition into your pack, and you can then sip it while still having your both hands on the paddle to keep moving. But the teams generally don't take breaks while paddling for the most part, just to keep moving. So they'll down a bunch of calories on the bike when they can. They'll down a bunch of calories in transition, and then on the paddle, it's a lot harder. You stop forward momentum when you're eating, whereas when you're trekking, for example, you can eat and move a lot more easily. So you'll see liquid calories with camelbacks, and you'll see downing a lot of food before you get on.
Is that something like with the camel pack on the back of his is that something he built in, or is that something that comes with, I mean, I would imagine that's something he had to kind
Like
of create.
it looks like he's just strapped a camelback on his back, but I know there's other
I think we
built in.
oh, there we go.
Yeah, so you can get them built in or on. So there's, you can just simply, for me, I have a PFD that does not, so I'll just like strap one on to the back. The key is having it, make sure that you have it clipped in or zip tied in or whatever in something that's not going to get you snagged if you go in the water on like a river. And if you're on a river, depending on it, you may not do it just for safety. But others are built in already on other ones. So,
Yeah.
yep. But you can look, you see Jesse moved all the team's bikes over because he's ready to go. He's now looking and searching left and right, talking to people on how he can help them with what they're doing. And if you notice, nobody stops. Everybody's always constantly moving until the team's ready to go. They know what needs to happen. And
Yeah, that's
good to go.
a common thing, and I know we've talked about it in some of the AR 101s is, if you're in transition and you're sitting still, you're not being a help to your team. Be finding ways to help your teammates. Because if you're sitting still, then you're not helping your team at that point. Unless that's a decision that the whole team has made. And you might have those, like if you come into transition and you have a teammate that has just been struggling, their job might be take this 15-20 minutes to recover. Get some calories, get some, hydration. We'll get what we need for you to get you going.
Yeah, and one thing you might even see too is like with a paddle, it might be, hey, down these calories and let's get your stuff on and get yourself ready before you rest. That way, when the team's ready, you could just
Yep.
on the other. And now you have 3 people paddling while one person's kind of recovering. So that's a technique for other teams. Is you got that one guy that's struggling, make sure they got everything they need to go and they're ready to hop in the boat, and then let them start resting. That way, once ever the other 3 are good, they're moving. Even though that one person's not paddling, you got three moving forward and towing a boat.
Well, as we wrap up this hour live segment, I'm going to go back to the tracker one more time so that we can kind of just touch base with where everybody is, because we will not have another live until 2 p.m. tomorrow. And at 2 p.m. tomorrow, we will have a lot to talk about. I'm going to be doing a dot watching post tonight at 10 to share some of the videos that we shared early on in this live. And then I will do a dot watch update in the morning about where teams sit. And then at 2, man, we are going to be breaking down this paddle section that teams are going to encounter. But as you can see here, I mean, this is all but the top 2 teams are in this picture screen right now. ThisAbility is coming into transition and probably in the next 10 or 15 minutes. Followed by Ranger Up, 50/60 Adventure, Go Live Your Adventure. And then we got like this just host of teams with Florida Extreme, the ladies of Breaking Butterflies, Mad Cow 4, the Fragile Flowers, and then bringing up the rears Coast to Coasters. So we look forward to continue to track the dots tonight. Nick, make sure you get some rest. We look forward to seeing some more videos from the course tomorrow, and hopefully having one or both or all or anybody who wants to join us from out there on scene, so that we can get the download. Thank you for joining us today. It's always great to have your insight, and I just like looking at you. So
Thank you. Yeah, pleasure. So yeah, and these guys are about to hit the water and things are looking good. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Continue to follow along on AR.watch on Facebook and Instagram for updates, and continue to follow Warrior. So thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Take care, Doug.
Hey, hold on, buddy. I'm going to stop this recording.
Cool.